Arirang Prime. (2012) Nuclear. Security.
Terrorists exploit gaps in security, and what we need is a uniformity of security in all countries that possess these materials so that we don't have any weak links.
The security of nuclear materials, the danger of nuclear terrorism is important.
A single nuclear bomb exploding, devastating the heart of some great city in the world.
A milepost to a safer and more peaceful world. The 2012 Seoul Nuclear Security Summit. Now Korea has established itself as the hub of world peace. March 28, 2012. A day after the successful conclusion of the Seoul Nuclear Security Summit. Korea opened the conference room to the public. Richard, an American citizen residing in Korea, visited the hall where the heat of the summit still lingered. He had followed the summit more closely than anyone else.
It has been less than 24 hours since the conclusion of the 2012 Seoul Nuclear Security Summit. The leaders of over 50 nations were just here discussing the Seoul communique, and I greatly look forward to seeing what happens next.
As the population increases, so do the power needs. More CO2.
He was the winner of the UCC contest that was held to celebrate the Nuclear Security Summit.
So, it is safe. It's much cleaner than other sources of fuel. Levels of CO2 will decrease as we use dirty fuels less. Our air gets cleaner, our lives get better, and it has the ability to meet our energy needs today, tomorrow, and far into the future.
We first introduced the video with saying that people believe nuclear is just for weapons, but say that it also can be used for positive things like making energy. And then we described the differences between a nuclear bomb and a nuclear power plant, that one cannot easily be converted from one form to another. They have to be very much changed. And so in the right circumstances, nuclear can be very safe.
He studied nuclear issues for a year while preparing for the UCC contest. He is fully aware of the importance of this summit for a more peaceful world. Heads of 53 states and leaders of 4 international organs convened here, and the heat of the conference has not yet faded.
No one nation can do this alone.
What kind of discussions passed between the leaders before the adoption of the Seoul communique? What kind of concerns? He imagines the endeavors and efforts of the world leaders. And calls up to mind, once again, the 2012 Seoul Nuclear Security Summit.
존경하는 각국 지도자들과 국제기구 대표 여러분, 그리고 대표단 여러분, 대한민국 정부와 국민을 대표하여 2012년 서울 해관보 정상회의에 참석하신 여러분을 진심으로 환영합니다. 그리고 서울 정상회의를 주최하게 된 것을 대한민국 국민과 더불어 기쁘게 생각을 합니다. 인류의 평화와 안전을 지키고 유지해 나가는 것은 우리 모두의 엄숙한 책임입니다.
On March 26, 2012, 58 leaders from around the world gathered in Seoul to be part of the largest ever diplomatic event to be hosted by a single country.
Nuclear securities simply to keep terrorists out of nuclear facilities and to keep the hands off sensitive nuclear materials which could be used to make nuclear weapons.
At the Washington Nuclear Security Summit, 50 heads of state agreed that nuclear terrorism is the single largest threat to the global community. And they began to agree on actions that could be taken to meet this challenge. So the Seoul Summit, coming just 2 years after, maintains the momentum, but also reminds people by just the collection that this is a global threat.
The first Nuclear Security Summit, proposed by U.S. President Barack Obama, was held in Washington in April 2010. It was in response to the growing threat of nuclear terrorism after the 9/11 attacks in New York.
Really, the current regime for nuclear security is mostly voluntary and pretty much of a patchwork. So it's not integrated and not well designed. And what we need going into the future is a system of security that all nations understand what their responsibility is, that they provide some transparency into how they're securing their materials and their facilities so that there's international confidence and that countries are accountable. So what we need is a more uniform basis for assessing the security in all countries.
After Korea was designated the host of the second Nuclear Security Summit, Korea put its utmost efforts into reinforcing its security forces. It deployed elite troops to ensure absolute safety during the summit. For 1 year, Korea prepared rigorously for potential nuclear or radiation terrorism through simulation drills. With 53 world leaders gathering in one place, security would be pivotal for the success of the summit. A week before the summit, mock drills to counter terrorism were held at the Incheon International Port.
폭발 물품으로 의심되는 물품이 보입니다. 철저히 검사해 주세요. 입국한다는 전화 제보 왔습니다.
Explosive materials would be detected and handled with high-tech equipment. The efforts to bolster security were joined by other organizations and specially trained agents.
폭발물이 판정된 경우에 원격 이동봉을 들고서 긴급히 출동해서 스위치를 작동해서 최대 30km까지 폭발물을 이동 처리하고 있습니다.
This security drill involved about 100 policemen, military personnel, and residents. They simulated a toxic gas attack at a subway station in Gyeonggi Province. During the drill, police and military personnel had to evacuate the residents, put out the toxic gas, find suspicious objects, and restore the facility. Korea tightened the security to a 24-hour rigid system 4 days ahead of the summit.
서울 전 시내의 교통 상황이 실시간으로 CCTV로 볼 수 있고 또 코엑스, 또 강남 방범 TV까지 연계가 돼 있기 때문에 행사를 주로 치러지게 되는 회의장과 강남 강북 숙소를 전부 입체적으로 연결해서 현장을 실시간으로 볼 수 있도록 시스템이 갖춰져 있습니다.